How much fun did you have getting to work with a young kid as Damien, like Stuart Allen?
I love working with children. I love the fact that they have completely different ideas of how a certain line may be read, how a certain attitude can be portrayed. And, you know, when I prep a script from the very beginning, I hear it in my head. I hear what I think the line is going to sound like. I think I know how it should be done. And kids always surprise me by doing something different. And then what I have to do is say, now, is his idea better than mine? And will his idea work with what we're going to do and how everything else is going to fit around it as this puzzle is put together? And I have to talk to the producers, of course, and the directors and make sure that it all will work. But I love the fact that it's organic, that the kid came up with the idea. And then that tends to be some of the best acting, is when it's just completely unusual because it's a kid thinking of it.
Can you discuss kind of why you went back with Jason Romano for the second film?
You know, when those kinds of decisions are made, they're actually made at a stage before I come onto the project. I walk in and say to the people who are employing me, okay, here's this new project. Can we use any actor we have used before? And they say, yes, you can use Kevin Conroy, or yes, you can use so-and-so, or yes, you can use... And it depends on where we are in the history of Batman and Bruce Wayne. Are we with a young Bruce Wayne who's just becoming Batman? Are we with a very mature Bruce Wayne who's at the end of his career of being Batman? Are we in the middle? And in this particular series, they were going to use the same artistic style for the last film and this one. And so because of that, they wanted to keep the voices consistent. So they said, were you happy with Jason? Yes, I love Jason. Let's use Jason again. So that's how that decision was made. I came here without your direction.
I know that, but you knew what you were doing.
I thought so. Actually, you knew what I was doing.
Where would you kind of rank Jason and the other Batman voice actors?
As far as proficiency, he's excellent. He's excellent. You know what? There has not been an actor I've hired as Batman who I didn't think was wonderful.
I mean, with Just League War, you had Jason as
Right.
young Batman, untested for the most part and stuff. Like, how is it different dealing with this? Because obviously it's an older Batman who's got to get
just a little, not
little,
massively, not like Dark Knight Returns.
Right. It's not retired Bruce Wayne.
Right. What was so cool about that was Jason had not really done this work before War, and then he's kind of matured into this work, which worked for the character because he's matured into Batman. So it actually was sort of art imitating life a little bit there, or vice versa, or both. So that worked well. And you know, he's such a good actor. And what's really fun to watch actors as they learn how to do this process is to watch them evolve and start to feel a little more comfortable of... At first, they put themselves in my hands, which is good. I like that. Let me take care of it. I promise I won't let your voice go out there sounding bad. We'll get the best possible performance. After the fear goes away of that unknown, then they begin to bring their own ideas to it, which is even better, because then they have contributions on another level of, what if, you know, it seems to me that, can we try? And I love to try. And we may do 6, 7, 8 different takes of a line and say, you know what, we'll figure out what works later. We have them all in the can, we recorded them all, let's see how that fits in with the other 2 actors we're going to record around that and see what flows the best, what works the best. So I like it when actors have their own ideas. I also like it when they trust me, because it's no good if they're conflicting with me, if they want to fight with me. I don't want to battle with an actor or something. I love it when they want to have that discussion back and forth, and they can convince me. If they have a better idea, I can be swayed, but they have to have a darn good defense as to why that's better than my idea.
Right.
Andrea, you've worked on such tremendous Batman stories and animation and, you know, based on superhero comics, but this is the first like Batman story you've dealt with where he actually has to deal with having a biological son, his very own flesh and blood. Like all that romance with Talia al Ghul has finally borne fruit. This is his actual son, and it's a son who's been going down the wrong path. It's not like he's had father and son bonds with Nightwing and Tim Drake, but they're really pretenders. They're his sons. This is legitimately his son. So how did you like, from that perspective, how did you like getting getting to play with that?
Well, I knew nothing about this story before I was handed the script. I knew nothing about Batman having a son. I thought it was so interesting. And I always wanted there to be a romance with Batman. And we did touch upon that in the Batman series with Talia. But never, there was always Bruce Wayne flirting with women and being the womanizer character, but there never was a real romance. And there really isn't a romance here either, because she, in fact, just slips him a Mickey and takes advantage of him. Exactly. And so he has this son, he learns about it, and now certainly he could have said, I take no responsibility for this. I had nothing really to do with this in a conscious way. But he doesn't. He's a man of honor. And so he's got this bond that's not just, I have a responsibility. He now has a blood responsibility. And there are things about this kid that are very like him. In the very beginning of the film, Alfred even says to him, he's the spitting image of you as a kid. And he says, I know, I see it myself. And so that's got to have an emotional tug on his heartstrings there, where this is a little me. This is a little tiny version of me. And, as you said, he's been trained by a warrior, someone who's all about take out your enemies. Now, that is certainly not Batman's way. You don't kill your enemies. And so he has to temper this remarkable young martial artist into learning what is right and wrong. He's got to get a whole different set of values through to this kid, and that is really a fun thing to play with. And I think these two actors did a beautiful job, and I was lucky enough to get them both in the room at the same time. Jason and Stewart worked in the room. They did not do the entire record together, but at least for 3 or 4 key scenes, schedules worked out where I could get them both there, and they could react to each other. Then when they had to record separately, at least they had that experience of being together, and they knew kind of what the energy was, and that worked really well.
What do you think are some of the unique hallmarks of Jason's Batman that sets it apart from some of the other Batman voices?
There's a gentleness to Jason's voice that I think works really well, especially for this kind of emotional story. He also certainly can get to the really tough, strong Batman that we need, but there's a sensitivity about Jason that is appealing. And I think appealing to women as well as to men, where it's, okay, this guy could actually have that guilt, could have that need for a family. I mean, he has no family, right? His parents are gone. He's got no siblings. Now he has a real son, not just a ward that he's taken care of, but an actual son. And I think that emotional connection was really sweet and well done by Jason.
Do you have a long list of potential Batman candidates that you can turn to whenever the right project comes forward?
Tremendously long. And it includes people that I've never reached out to and people that I've reached out to that just weren't available. They were interested, but I just couldn't get them during the time when I needed them. And I'll tease this for you. There's a film coming up. It's about 3 down the line. 2 actors that I've been after for about 7 years that I couldn't get, both of whom were available and both of whom said yes. And they're so good. And I'm so excited, and I can't say a thing about it other than you have something really wonderful to look forward to in about 2 years from now.
Was there anyone in this one you hadn't worked with before?
Good question. Yes. Someone I want to work with for a long time, Thomas Gibson. He plays Deathstroke in this, and he's remarkable. So good. And he, too, had not done this work before. And, yes? Okay. And he's perfect because he's cold, not the man, not the actor, the character, is cold and deliberate and calculating, and I knew Thomas could pull it off, and he's terrific in this. Morena Baccarin I've worked with a million times, David McCallum and Xander Berkeley I've worked with a ton of times. Please hold on, turning pages, because I have my cheat sheet, because I forget. Because, really, we recorded this a year ago, January.
Right.
I've recorded, no kidding you guys, 50 projects since that. And so to try to remember who, Giancarlo Esposito, I have in this piece too. Plays Ray Charles. Who's in? I know. Which project are we in, and how are we pronouncing it? Right. Bruce Thomas I've worked with before. Sean I had not worked with before. Sean Marr. And so lovely to have a chance to work with him. And then 2 actresses, Kari Walgren and Diane Michelle, that I had not worked with.
Is there anyone from Firefly you still have to work with?
1 actress, Jewel. I have not worked with Jewel. Everybody else in that series I've worked with. Just 1 left.
Thank you so much.
all.